like a peanut and Apache Hoodie contribution. So I was just looking at like a Delta and like a willing to contribute over here. So like that's the reason I've
Oh,
been here. Yeah.
that's very good, Jagadish. Well, I mean, welcome aboard. And so right now we're recording because we're going to be posting this video onto the Delta Lake YouTube later on. I did want to not stream it just that way,
Yeah.
edit, especially because my internet issue might happen anyways. But nevertheless, this is for publicly. Welcome, everybody. This is today, November 9th at 8 a.m. Pacific for the Flink Delta Connector Sync community meeting. Jagadish had just introduced himself. Welcome aboard. Why don't we just go around the horn just to do like a quick 30-second introduction. Scott, I want you to introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Scott. I'm a software engineer on the Delta ecosystem team at Databricks, and I've been working on the Delta standalone writer, which is a single JVM library, which is a dependency for the Flink connector to write into Delta.
Thanks very much, Scott. Fabian.
Hey, I'm Fabian. I'm based in Berlin, and I'm with Vivarica, so basically the original founders of Apache Flink, and I'm guiding like the whole Delta Lake contribution from like the Flink side and assisting in whatever question comes up, and also working behind the scenes and to improve the sync that, we may get better experiences in the future and ease future development.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Pavel.
Hi, I'm Pavel. I would say that I'm the main developer for this Flink connector itself. And to do that, I'm using all the help from the Delta and Vivarica guys. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Pavel. TD.
Hey everyone, I am a software engineer on the Databricks side and been involved with everything Delta since the beginning. So I'm guiding this whole initiative from the Delta side of things.
Awesome. Thank you very much, TD. Okay, and my name is Denny. I'm a developer advocate here at Databricks. Yeah, let's rock on. So, Jagadish, you said you were interested. Do you have, before we dive into the details, because we are going to dive into some details real fast, did you have any questions that you want to ask any of us here from the Flink side or from the Delta side, for that matter?
No. As of now, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, no, again, awesome. Don't hesitate to ping us any questions. So, TD, I'm going to let you take the mantle here, but I believe where we're currently at is where are we currently on the PRs, right? There was the umbrella PR that you originally created, the public created. I believe that was the last check. So basically, I figured we want to probably start from there since the design document's already out and published, and everything's good to go from that front. So, figured we just dive into the code. So.
Yeah, sure. Wait, did you want me to do that, or Pavel?
Oh no, I'm sorry. Pavel to dive into the code, but you from the standpoint of the questions that you normally ask. That's all I mean. Sorry.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's clear. From my side, Pavel, I see that you just in the last half an hour updated the first PR, which sets up all the skeleton code for the Delta Sync. Thank you very much for working on that. I can see a lot of the Scala class, it's not Scala, the class and method docs have been updated. Thank you. I will start going through it in more detail now that you're updated. Just one question I had at a high level is that were you able to get the Java style stuff working?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it should be. I'm not sure about the PR. I just ran it before pushing it to the to GitHub. I ran the styles on my local setup, and it was okay. So
cool.
I'm not sure about the PR, but yeah, if not, I will align it.
Okay, good.
I can see that the green mark is on, so I think it passed.
Okay, so, but you're sure that the Java style checks are running on the Flink sub-project?
Yeah, because I on the main PR that I left for reference, I had like a lot checks, so it's for sure it's working.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, in our build.spt configuration, you can see that every compile that occurs or compilation that occurs is dependent on Java style checks passing. So
Okay.
and his is being compiled and then tested. So yeah, all good.
So the style check is in the common tables, common settings.
Yeah, we've just made that anytime you want to compile and then test something, you need to pass style checks as well.
But does the style checks apply on all the projects, all
So
the
for
sub-modules?
For any project, when you compile any project, it will also run it. Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Okay, good. Thank you. Just for confirming. Okay, good. This definitely looks, even the cursory runs that I'm doing right now is definitely a much better shape than before. So yes, we have our work cut out on our side to start reviewing this stuff. But in the meantime, Powell, what's your next step? Like, what can you start working on? Something like adding more tests and stuff while we are reviewing whatever is out there?
Yeah, so not sure if you noticed, but the current, the first decouple PR a little differs from the one from the previous week, because I scrapped all the implementation code. Now it's really just a pure interfaces and classes with very little implementation in it. I will. Yeah, I thought that it would be easier for you just to review no implementation. I mean, almost no implementation at all. I will add the implement as I planned. So now it's just interfaces and classes. Then I will add the functionalities for the writing files to the file system. So basically, what's the file sync is doing. So I will implement this add PR for only this behavior. Then I will start adding stuff just connected to the Delta implementation itself.
I see. So
that's the plan.
Okay, no, this is great. This is a much, I just realized that this is a much smaller PR, which is, so then we should focus on getting this in as quickly as possible so that you can make the subsequent PRs. Actually, why don't you, you make the subsequent PRs without this massive diff and focus on just the individual implementations. That is going to be the real PR of interest.
Yeah, I will create the PRs anyway, but I will keep them in my repo and I will link them in Slack, on Slack channel.
Sounds good to me. Okay.
Yeah, because
now,
right now,
here,
go ahead,
finish your thought.
I just wanted to add that for next couple of days we will be having some bank holidays, so I want to prepare all of those PRs that I mentioned for you. So because during the next sync you can be busy on the reviews.
Yes, absolutely, sounds good. So yeah, okay, Slack us the list of PRs stacked on top of each other. Now, I want to get some of the baseline straight here. So this first PR is on the standalone writer feature branch. Scott, do you have a sense of when the standalone writer feature branch is going to be merged to master?
Most likely today or tomorrow. As far as I know, all we're working on is like wiki, or sorry, today or tomorrow still. We just go do wiki and like examples and like documentation, but that's unrelated to code pretty much.
Yeah, but those doesn't really need to block the merging, right?
Exactly. So today or tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So then basically today, tomorrow, we merge the standalone writer feature branch to the master. Then I think the next step would be to redo this PR on top of master, Powell, which should not take any much more effort. It'll be just a rebase as far as I expect. Then basically we don't want all of this Flink stuff to be yet merged into the master, because we want to make a Delta standalone release, the release of that entire repo before all this Flink work is complete. So we are going to maintain the Flink as a feature branch, and all subsequent PRs will continue into to be merged in that feature branch, which is exactly what we did for the standalone writer as well. Does it make sense, Pavel and Scott?
Yeah, sure. So are you going to create a separate branch for me that I can create a PR, or how it's going to work?
Good question. Scott, what did you do for your standalone writer? How did you, was the first PR automatically the base branch, or did you make a separate branch?
You'll just branch off of master, and that will be your feature branch. And then you can branch off of that, and your incoming PRs can be stacked on top.
Okay, so then do you, so basically are you suggesting explicitly fork off and create a branch called Flink feature?
Well, what's yours called now? I'm sure the name's fine.
Flink sync feature 1.
Right now it's just called Flink sync feature, which is perfect. And right now it's branched off of the standalone writer. So you can just rebase it off of master and change the target branch to be into master, and then you're fine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but now I'm merging into your branch, but to create a separate branch or to merge, I don't have the rights. Yeah, I think
you can't change the target branch. You can't change the base branch, because I can if you'd like me to.
I'm not sure.
But he cannot create branches. So
I cannot create branch in the connectors repo.
But you're in the connectors repo. I see. Okay, then that means I will probably have to do this for you. So I can just change. Once you've rebased it with master, I can change the target to be into master, and then it'll be there.
Okay, and you want me to rebase right now, or wait till the Delta standalone writer will be merged?
Yep, wait until it's merged. Yeah.
Okay. So just let me know, and we do rebase then.
Sounds good. So the going forward, the feature branch in the main repo would be called Flink sync feature, Flink _ sync _ feature. Okay. Which will be different from Powell's own Flink sync feature branch, which is the all-inclusive of all the changes which you are splitting from.
TD, you've lost. Why? Why would it be different?
Because Powell has all the changes in his Flink sync feature branch in his repo. We don't want to merge exactly that, because we are splitting off those changes and making separate stacked PRs, right?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So he could just rename his current branch, and then we can still have Flink feature. Sure. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Just making sure that there is no confusion in the future. Okay. Good. Good. We have established what is expected. Good. Okay. Then Scott, I think you let Powell know when you have merged it, and then we can take it forward. So Powell, tell us about your bank holidays. When are you
out? From Thursday.
From
basically, it's 2 days, Thursday and Friday.
Thursday and Friday. So we are not meeting on Thursday in our internal sync. Okay, cool. Okay, and then until then, let's hope that this gets merged and you can do your rebasing to the master or whatever the new branch structure is before you leave, so that we can continue working on this. Sounds good? Good. Okay, great.
So maybe a general question from my side about the next steps, because yeah, given that we'll be having this first version of Flink Delta connector, Flink Delta Sync, what would you say will be the next step? Focusing on the source, or maybe focusing on upgrading to higher Flink versions and providing the table API?
That's a good question. I think we need to figure that out. That's a very good question. What I definitely want is make the Flink sync feature complete and ready for release with documentation and stuff before we start moving our focus on source or table APIs and stuff like that. So I think what we should do is have a sort of a mini project plan to track all the tasks that we need to do. Maybe we should set up as like a spreadsheet or a Google Sheets kind of thing where we track these are all the tasks we need to do, and so that we can track them, and so that if they're like small tasks here and there, like fix that tiny thing crops up, we can start keep adding it over there, so that we don't drop any small tasks. Maybe that's what we should do, and that will give us a lot more clarity on what are the next steps left to be done, and then accordingly we can start thinking about more next steps beyond the sync.
TD, what about just using the design doc and adding a project plan at the bottom of that?
Sure. That works too. Yeah, let's have just one doc. As long as we continuously keep it updated, and if there are new items that come up that are surprises, additional testing needed or whatever, we keep adding to that table.
And one question that reminds me of, Pavel, is we haven't talked about tests in a while, and like what the current integration or unit tests are. Could you update us on the status of that?
Yeah, sure. So most of them are there. You can look at the reference PR, and if you are missing something, just let me know. For sure, I'm missing some edge cases for global committer, but I was planning to add them with the PR implementing the global committer. It has some parameterized tests for global committer, but this is just a general behavior for partition, not partitioned, and so on. And yeah, edge cases will be the next one. So that would be the main missing test. And besides that, most of them should be there. So I would say that it's mostly like one or two classes that needs to be tested additionally.
Okay.
So if you please look at the reference PR, and if you will be missing something of great importance, just let me know.
Makes sense. Okay, so how exactly are you testing what has been written out? Are you using basically the Delta standalone to read the log and get the list of Parquet files and then read it using the standalone itself, its inbuilt Parquet reader, to see whether the contents of the table matches what is expected?
Yeah, so I'm testing it on different levels. For instance, I inspired my PR by the Flink sync, and so I get some of the ideas how to test the behavior. So for instance, we have this file writer bucket, and in case of Delta, it's the Delta writer bucket that implements the actual writing to the file system. So I'm testing it just by writing the data, the records, rolling some files along the way as well, and reading it back. So just testing if it can be parsed back, and if all the records was written to the files, and the structure is okay, and so on. And I'm doing the same for the Delta global committer. So, but out there, I'm not writing the actual files. I'm only committing the metadata to the Delta log. So it just stripped off of the writing capabilities. And in case of the general IT testing cases, I'm doing all of it. So I'm running the job, I'm writing the files, I'm reading back and checking the Delta log as well.
So when you're reading back, are you reading back only the Parquet files written? How are you reading back
I'm parsing
the data?
I'm parsing every record to raw data. That this is the structure from Flink. So I'm checking every record that can be parsed back.
Okay.
And counting them.
Okay. So and some food for thought for you is that if we had a Flink reader for Delta, then the right way, the cleanest way we would have tested is to use a Flink reader to read the delta table after the streaming sync has written out, pipeline is stopped, use a Flink batch reader to do a batch read and verify whether the data is correct or not. It would be, and eventually we are going to work on the Flink source to make that happen, right? So eventually we will have that. So for such integration tests, it might be a good idea to construct the framework of the test in such a way, such that right now we are doing like a relatively hacky job of testing only the Parquet files, testing the log details with the logs, like separate pieces and stuff in the absence of the Flink source. But in future, when we do have the Flink source, we should be able to just change one function, the implementation of one function, and just replace it with the Flink source test and make it much cleaner. So think of making this integration test framework such that you encapsulate the checking of the final delta table into a single function or something like that, such that it can be replaced and made cleaner, a lot less verbose in the future.
I think it's pretty much it in the integration test right now. But yeah, I will take it into the consideration, and because I encapsulated the testing functions anyway. But yeah, I will look again and make sure it's
good. Awesome. Thank you. This is great. Okay, I think I'm out of questions from my side.
I think one recommendation I have regarding the maybe next steps. So we usually, when we like get new contributions for like connectors, sinks, or source, we usually treat it as like there needs to be also a table API integration, because otherwise users who are basically only writing table API queries or SQL cannot use the connector otherwise. So this is currently a limiting factor. So basically the connector you're currently designing is only for data stream, and there needs to be some syntactic sugar around it, some wrapper to make it available in the table API. Usually it's not difficult, but it's just, yeah, it needs to be done, unfortunately. So we have no generic way yet to plug them into other APIs. And I would probably also hope that Python integration is probably off the table currently, because it's, yeah, a bit more trickier, I would say.
Okay. So I think as far as based on it, I think it's covered in the design doc as well, that I think the general plan was that we're going to make a release on Flink 1.12 without the table API automatic integration, I guess Python stuff as well. And then we'll keep improving and releasing it on newer versions of Flink, which has those API changes. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, totally. I just want to make clear, not that your customers at the end only use table API and can't use the sync at all.
No, absolutely makes sense. I think the only reason we're doing this is that we have certain, and Denny can actually elaborate more on that. We have some customers who are in 1.12, and that's why we want to target that as the minimum version, at least for the first release, so that we have some people unblocked with the basic implementation, and then always improve things in the future.
Sounds good.
Isn't that right? That some of our people are on 1.12?
Yeah. So long story short, we actually chatted with them about their willingness to go to 1.15 right away. Oh, sorry, 1.14, excuse me, right away. At the time when we talked, I was talking about 1.14. And they were like, maybe, but to get unblock 1.12. Now, saying that, if you think it's worthwhile, I can certainly go ahead and reach out again and see if their willingness to upgrade to the latest version. If you think that's actually worth the effort. If you do think it is, I actually have no problem doing it, by the way.
I mean, if they're data stream users, they can definitely use the sync right away once it's merged.
Okay.
Just maybe make sure that they're not want to use it from another API, because this won't work in 1.12.
Gotcha.
But yeah, as I said, it will be still possible. Yeah, with some syntactic sugar and bridging back from table API to data stream. Maybe it would not be the best way to do it, but they could use it. Yeah, if they have table APIs based jobs, they can bridge back from table API to data streams and use the sync.
Yeah, so basically Flink supports like some sort of bridging between the APIs, at least for table API. So if users write table API programs, they can, to like unlock the full capabilities, go to the data stream API and then use everything which is available there. So this should be possible, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not the most natural way for like people who are used to like table API, where you have like mostly like SQL statements or selects, wheres, and aggregates, to more like a functional programming style.
Well, I think given the bridge basically like do all your table operations using the usual SQL style select project and all of that, and only at the final step when you're specifying the output do you need to do that bridge to write to the to invoke the sync API. Isn't that the setup?
Yes, basically yes, but conceptually the APIs are completely different, so that's why the bridging is not without the cost.
Okay. Are there any known limitations of when the bridge cannot be used? Gotchas and stuff?
I don't know specific gotchas of 112. I would hope it works in all the cases. I know we have currently an open bug which is worked on that timestamps might not be properly propagated, but as far as I understood, the Delta sync doesn't use any timestamps. So this shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Thank you. I think that's good clarity to have. That's why what we documented in the design doc.
Yeah, this is
already
what we showed.
Yeah, exactly. But just good to double check anyways. Cool.
Cool. Then I think we have all of our action items and things that we have to target. So questions answered. So if there's nothing else, we can certainly call it a day. All right. Well, then, thank you very much, everybody. And I'll post this up to the Delta Lake community shortly. And that's it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Awesome.
Okay.
Bye,
Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
cheers.
Bye-bye. Thank you.